What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to White Sox Live once again. More White Sox news again today as Chicago continues to send Chris Getz out into various interviews to give us some little sound bites, and we continue to get links to some potential high-end Chicago White Sox targets during this offseason and free agency period. Not often the Chicago White Sox are heavily linked to any sort of top 10 free agent target. But once again in the news, Murakami linked to the Chicago White Sox. Obviously, we talked about yesterday just kind of the potential of a lot of the higher end big spending teams kind of backing off and his market cooling down a bit, leading to some speculation the White Sox could get involved. And now ESPN posting an article, the most likely destination for the top 10 remaining free agents in baseball. And Murakami, they've got the Chicago White Sox now, not just as a dark horse, as the most likely destination for the Japanese slugger. I think that would be absolutely huge for Chicago. Brings left-handed power to the corner infield. Obviously, we still aren't totally sure what the plan is with Miguel Vargas, who can play third or first. Murakami can also play third or first. You've also got Lenyn Sosa, who can rotate into either of those positions when needed. Colson Montgomery can play third base. If, for instance, maybe we take a top flight shortstop with that number one pick in the draft, maybe somebody gets called up. A number of options, but the big thing is just getting a power bat in here on this team and at a position of need. And now we've got more links from the Chicago White Sox to the Japanese slugger. Would be a really huge get for Chicago. Fingers crossed that they can find a way to make this happen. They've got a lot of money to spend. Their current payroll heading into this year, just $68 million in total across the entire big league roster. And 20 million of that is just going to Luis Robert, and there's speculation that he may or may not even be on the team come opening day. We'll have to wait and see as far as that is concerned. But even with Luis Robert, even with, still, it's just, $68 million for the total payroll. That is way down there on the lower end of the spectrum as far as Major League Baseball payrolls are concerned. And obviously Chicago, they've got Jerry Reinsdorf, one of the more wealthy owners across professional sports. They're in the Chicago market. They have the money to spend if they want to spend it. This would be a key signing for the White Sox. But then, yeah, on a note that is a little bit more concrete and in the books, the Chicago White Sox have officially finalized their coaching staff after signing on a couple more coaches to the staff in total. So we'll take a gander here. Hiring Bobby Hearn as the assistant pitching coach and Jose Leger as the first base / outfield coach, which will put the finishing touches on Will Venable's 2026 coaching staff. We kind of look into both of these guys here. Leger was a major league field coordinator. Rounds out the major league staff after the other most recent hiring of major league field coordinator Chris D'Onofrio. And yeah, Will Venable rounding out his staff here as we kind of look into some of the details of each of these guys as one of the interesting notes here is that Hearn was actually one of the teammates of Shane Smith back when they were in school together, so that is certainly something of interest with that one as the Chicago White Sox continue to inch their way closer to opening day 2026, continue to try to figure out what this team is even going to look like. Looks like we finally have the staff in place. Now it's just a matter of kind of, as we were already talking about with this roster, who's going to be playing where, and can they make significant improvements talent-wise at any positions of need. That is still left to be determined. but we all look forward to seeing what the Chicago White Sox are able to do with that. And a big part of that is going to come down to that number one pick in the draft. And we've got another soundbite from Chris Getz here, who specifically stated, not looking to overthink this thing, basically directly asked on whether or not he would be prioritizing the financial flexibility of maybe looking into some other options other than just flat out taking a college superstar like Rock Cholowski. There's been some precedent here set from previous teams who like to go in other directions, maybe sometimes like to go high school player to kind of take advantage of the financial flexibility that actually gives you, as they kind of take this opportunity with some of these top end picks to kind of use it as sort of a puzzle piece to kind of work the financials in just the right way. Maybe take a risk on a high upside younger player that you can kind of stash their paycheck away for a little bit longer. You can kind of stash having to extend them, and kind of try to work that angle. Chris Getz, though, not interested in doing any of that, said it's a great opportunity in a year where you really want to have the number one pick so that you can acquire the top player available, kind of putting pay to this whole, one of the best players. We can go a number of different ways. None of that type of language at all. Very right to the point, direct. We're going to go out, we're going to take the best player available. Nothing else is going to quantify itself in this decision-making process. And that is really, really good news for Chicago White Sox fans who continue to kind of feel the wrath of being White Sox fans, a big market team that kind of treats itself as a small market team. A history of acting as though we are the Tampa Bay Rays or the Pittsburgh Pirates and spending as such. The opportunity to get that number one pick in the draft and go draft a generational type franchise-altering player, you have to take advantage of that when the opportunity strikes. You have to go out there and get a rock-solid, ready-to-go prospect. And I think all signs right now pointing to Rock Cholowski being the guy, shortstop out of UCLA, a guy that you can maybe even bring in and just kind of rocket strap him right up to the majors as fast as you possibly can, because he's a guy with that kind of talent. Obviously, it's never the ideal scenario to rush a guy up, but when you're talking about a guy that already has the tools that he has, someone that might be quick on the uptake as far as getting up into that scenario. But when he gets up there, as we hit our final point of the day, what is going to be in front of him as far as the starting pitching situation for the Chicago White Sox, at least for this year? We've got three names probably rock solid penciled in, but with how free agency is going right now, with some of the big names already off the board and some big contracts being handed out, are the White Sox going to be kind of left in the dust? Are the Chicago White Sox going to be left behind in this bidding war for starting pitching, which was maybe their number one need coming into this offseason and free agency period? It's starting to look like that is a genuine possibility, as the White Sox, they missed out on even just bringing back Adrian Hauser. Obviously, Dylan Cease signed that monstrous contract not long ago. A lot of pitchers already off the board signing big-time deals, and the White Sox probably not interested in getting into major bidding wars with teams like the Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Yankees, even the Philadelphia Phillies, who have already made a couple of big signings and might be toward the back end of their free agency big swings, but you never really know with teams that are in the dead center of their competitive window. It's going to be a bit of a rat race for Chicago, and it's not looking great for them. So there is this very strong potential that you're looking at yet another season for the Chicago White Sox of a platoon kind of toward the back end of that starting rotation. Last year, 4 different starting pitchers with 9 starts that all ended up not even being in that top 3 that we were talking about of guys that were going to be consistently in the starting rotation. They used just a ridiculous number of starting pitchers last year, and there is a bit of a worry that we could be heading down that same direction again this year. Let us know in the comment section below. Do you foresee any big-time signings for the Chicago White Sox? Do you think they've got a real shot here at maybe signing a big-time infielder, or what's the starting pitching situation going to look like for opening day? Let us know in the comment section below, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.